The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. Let the post-mortem begin, Kieran. This week we're looking back at Cork's exit from the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship following their loss to Louth in the preliminary quarter-final on Sunday. Former Cork footballer and Star Sport columnist John Hayes will be joining us to reflect on what he says was a season of stagnation for Cork. So I'm your host, Dylan Mangan, and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Clearys McCarthy. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose Credit Union, choose local, choose community. So, Kieran, Cork 1-8, Louth 1-9. It was a close game on the scoreboard. Probably wasn't the best advertisement for football as a sport, but in a season that has often felt one step forward, two steps back. What was it about the weekend that has sparked such a strong reaction from Cork supporters?
That's a nice, easy question to kick us off with, Dylan. Cheers for that one. I suppose because it feels like it's the same old story again, the kind of same old failings. Like you said there, every time you feel that this Cork football team and even previous Cork football teams, this has gone on 10 years or more now. You could say since Cork slipped out of Division 1, which is a decade ago. It's just you want to see Cork football progress, and we thought we saw signs of progression this year. But in the end, when you look at the season as a whole, that word stagnation, that's a great word. Like Cork have stagnated. You could even say they've regressed as well, because if you compare how Cork did in 2023 compared to 2024, last year was a more successful season in the sense that Cork got to the quarterfinals of the championship, where this year Cork were knocked out in the prelim quarterfinals. So I think as well, Cork fans just aren't happy with that. It's not good enough for a county the size of Cork. There's no, like, Cork aren't entitled to, just because it's a big county, not entitled to get to the latter stages. You know, you have to earn it. And I think why this defeat kind of irritates so much and it gnaws so much is Cork should beat a county like Louth. And that's with the greatest respect to Louth. Cork should be beating a county like Louth, but they just came up short again. And it's happened too much over the last couple of years, you know, I'm going to go back to 2020, and that was before John Cleary to the Cork team that beat Kerry in the Munster senior semi-final, and then did win and lost the final to Tipperary. You know, kind of go back to last year, John Cleary's first proper season as manager. Cork lost up in Munster to Clare. This year Cork lose to Louth in an All-Ireland quarter-final. And they're all defeats to teams that Cork should be beaten, because they're all teams of a similar standard. And we've spoken about it before in the podcast, Dylan. For Cork to kind of progress and take that next step, they need to regularly beat teams of a similar standard, but they just can't do it, you know, for whatever the reason is. We thought after the Donegal win, it was a big scalp for Cork, and you came away from Park Ring that day feeling a bit optimistic, saying, Jesus, there's a makings of a decent team here if they can back it up, if they can do it again. And they just couldn't. Lost to Tyrone, and that loss to Tyrone looks even more painful now, because it took Cork from top spot in the group down to third, set up this trip away to Louth, which we did say last week was, okay, that's the draw that Cork wanted, but just couldn't get the job done. And I think it's the defeat to Louth. It's a build-up of many failings over the last couple of years, but it's also the performance itself. Like, if you want to be kind, it was turgid. It was a terrible football game, and Cork just didn't play well at all. And the bout of the championship, not playing well and losing to a team that Cork should beat and should be beating, I think that's one that's going to stick in the throat for a while.
Yeah, you mentioned there that Cork should beat Louth. You said it a few times. But to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit, how long do results like this have to happen for that to not be the case, that like for Louth to be a team that Cork shouldn't be beating? Like Louth, they obviously, congratulations to them into their first ever quarter final, but if you're kind of a Louth supporter sitting there, you're saying, well, Cork shouldn't beat us because we beat Louth, you know. So at what point is there a point that comes where Cork kind of have to reassess where they are in the kind of ecosystem of teams? Like maybe they shouldn't be beating Louth, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point too. If you look at the last couple of years, Cork have played Louth now 5 times in the last 24 months, and Louth have won 3 of those 5. So Cork, so Louth are winning this head-to-head 3-2. Cork's 2 previous wins did come in the championship but this is the one this year that kind of really counted for Cork, because we felt we'd seen those signs of progression, but then come up against the next challenge and then bang, hit a wall, and it's like a feeling. It's like, where do Cork go from here? You know, it's you're trying to figure out what's next for this Cork team. But back to the original question, should Cork feel like they're entitled to beat a team like Louth? Right now, no. And I think we have to go on results of the last couple of years. John Cleary has been very clear about he's wanted Cork to get up to Division 1 of the National Football League and get those regular games against those top teams. And he feels that's such an important step in this team's development and progression. But the reality is Cork have not been promoted from Division 2 in the last couple of years because they've not been good enough to be promoted from Division 2. Cork are a mid-table Division 2 team for a reason, because that is Cork's level right now, if we're being very honest. Cork just haven't been good enough. Even this year, there was a real sense of optimism before a ball was kicked in the league, because Cork had gone so well in the championship last year, going well in relative to what had gone before, as in won back-to-back games against Mayo Roscommon before losing the quarter-final to Derry and Croke Park. And the feeling was, okay, there's something to build on there. Next step, we have to get promoted from Division 2. Then Cork lose their first 3 games in the league, and all of a sudden that balloon was burst, you know, kind of. And then it was just about, okay, let's not get relegated, and then got the wins, that the points that the Cork needed. So yeah, it's just where do Cork rank right now? Yeah, it's a mid-table Division 2 team. If we're being brutally honest, Cork are a mid-table Division 2 team who can beat a top team on their day, like they've proven in the last couple of seasons, beating a Donegal, beating a Mayo, beating a Roscommon, but who consistently can't beat teams of a similar standard, highlighted by lost to Louth this year, lost to Clare in the Munster Championship last year. So Cork are in that very funny position where they're just right now not good enough to get up to Division 1. And that, I think that's why it kind of hurts too, because it's you just don't know what's next. Like for this Cork team now, where are they going to go? I was looking at the Division 2 for next year, and it looks, on paper, it looks like it's kind of, okay, Cork have a chance of promotion here, because Donegal and Armagh got promoted this year. Dublin and Galway got promoted last year. It's Monaghan and Roscommon who've come down, and it looks like on paper, okay, Cork could get promoted. Like, this is a big chance for Cork. But then you're kind of, it's almost that mistrust that fans now have in this Cork team, because been here so much before. Just when you think, oh, it's things are looking up, bit of optimism, you get hit, bang, a loss to Louth, and it's like, oh God, here we go again. So it's going to be another long winter for Cork football fans.
Yeah, it might be a case of maybe that little bit of apathy kind of setting in, kind of not expecting the good results, like you say. And so when they do come, everyone is delighted with them. But then when they don't, it's that disappointment is there. And one man who'll be more disappointed than anyone is John Cleary, on the front page of this week's Southern Star, which is in shops and online tomorrow. You've gone for the headline, "What next for Cleary and Cork?" And he does have a kind of a lot to think about this week. He was non-committal on his future after the defeat to Louth. He'll obviously have been taking some time this week to think about what he's going to do. And it is a big decision for Cleary and for Cork as well.
100%, because I suppose from the outside looking in, like, we don't understand fully the amount of work and preparation that goes into managing an inter-county team. It's a full-time job on top of his own full-time job, and it's a huge undertaking. And In fairness to John, he took over from Keith Rick in mid-season back in 2022 when Keith wasn't feeling the best at the step back for kind of health reasons. So John now was, after, you could say, 3 seasons as Cork manager, 2 as the official manager, because he was officially appointed on a 3-year term in July 2022 after that campaign had ended. So he now has 2 full seasons down and there's 1 left. But after the last day, he just said he needs time to decide what's next. He needs to talk to his management team and just to see what the future has in store for him and for his management team, because that's quite important when he's trying to decide, will he commit again for 2025. So it's we're just in that kind of uncertain period right now. Cork could end up looking for a new football manager in the next couple of weeks or months, or Cleary could decide, you know what, I'm going to give it 1 more year, maybe looking at the makeup of the Division 2 next year, and he sees an opportunity for Cork to get up to Division 1, and maybe that's what this team does need. But until they actually deliver, until they can kind of meet a target and meet a goal, like I said, that mistrust will be there, because you just don't know what you're going to get. And it's that, again, I'm probably sick of talking about it on the podcast, just that lack of consistency. You don't know what you're going to get from one game to next. And you're looking at the Cork performance against Louth and how poor it was, and you compare that to 2 games earlier when Cork did so well against Donegal, and even in good bits of the game against Tyrone, Cork played well too. So how can a team go from being so good to beat the Ulster champions Donegal, then to lose to Louth? With the greatest respect to Louth, it's hard to kind of put a finger on it, and that's what Cleary and his management team will be trying to do right now, I'd say, before they decide, will they throw their lot in again for 2025. So just a bit uncertain at the moment what's going to happen next. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out, because it's just such a disappointing end to the season, and everyone now was probably feeling a bit rattled and a bit sore and a bit cranky and a bit frustrated, and just that dark cloud is descended again, and you're trying to figure out, okay, where is the way forward. So we'll just have to see what John Cleary decides. And in fairness, he has, as we'll hear from John Hayes quite soon, John Cleary has a bit of credit in the bank for what he's achieved over the last couple of years. And I know Cork fans were seething at the manner of the performance on Sunday. But again, we've just said it, like, this Cork team has no God-given right to expect to get to an All-Ireland quarter-final.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe it is that from us looking from the outside in, that inability to kind of explain or process the results when you're comparing them to what the expectations are, or like the high expectations that Cork fans have. And like, Cork fans should have high expectations as well, like every fan of their county should have high expectations. But we'll hear from John Hayes in a moment, who is somebody who does have high expectations of Cork, and you've been chatting to him. And I guess maybe we should caveat this by saying this was the day after the result, so it was the Monday after the result. So the conversation is a little bit raw in that sense. Like, you can tell that John was really, really disappointed with the result, and he's maybe a kind of emblematic of a lot of supporters. So it's good to have him on this week, because he can kind of, on one hand, voice the frustrations that a lot of fans have, but obviously with his experience as well, he can dig a little bit deeper into what exactly he thinks is going wrong and where Cork need to work as well.
100%. Like, Cork, John was there as a player with Cork. He's been there in a coaching capacity with Cork teams too. He was a selector for the seniors in with the under-20s as well. He's coaching in Ross, so he's a fella who knows his football. So we'll get into kind of almost the specifics of the game and kind of tactically how Cork set up against Louth, and you'll hear the frustration. You'll hear the frustration in John's voice as he's looking at how Cork defensively, he feels under Kevin Walsh, are strong, but offensively the Cork, it's the same all the time, and how teams are working this Cork side out, and how the Cork attack doesn't offer too much. So it was the day after the last before, and John is, and raw is a good word, Dylan. John was quite raw about this, but he's a very passionate Cork football man, and you read it in the Star every week in his column. Like, he just wants the best for Cork football, and he's always put out a call for people, as in, put your shoulder to the wheel, you know, kind of this needs everyone on board to try and solve what's wrong with Cork football right now, because it's not one answer fits all. There's not one quick fit solution to this. Like we had Brian Cuthbert in the Southern Star last week talking about making schools in various regions as hubs to drive a lot of education and football coaching through. I put up on Twitter earlier in the week about the Cork 5-year plan that was launched in 2019, and one of the objectives there was to make Cork regular All-Ireland contenders within 3 to 5 years at all grades, and that was hashtag 2024. Like that plan is now finished, and we're not next or near where those objectives were set out to be. Okay,
Just to jump in there, just very quickly, sorry to jump in on the 5-year plan. Do you think, obviously hindsight's a great thing, but like to turn Cork into regular All-Ireland contenders within 3 to 5 years, that's a very short time frame to go from where Cork were, which is not doing so good to that point. Do you think that maybe is a bit ambitious, or what do you think?
Looking at it now, it was over ambitious still, and I'm just looking at some of the bullet points they had in that press release, and even one was support for Cork football and the profile of our intercounty footballers will grow significantly within 1 to 2 years. Straight away, absolute nonsense, because that just did not happen. The profile of this football team hasn't grown. The support for the football team hasn't grown. Even a small thing, from a media point of view, getting access to players is harder than ever. You know, kind of we're here as local media and regional media, and we're trying to almost kind of, we're in a position where we can link the county team to the supporters who are our readers. Yet regularly this year, I've tried to get interviews with players, and a lot of those players will talk, but it was being shut down. So when this 5-year plan, like one of those points was to raise the profile, like they've come up woefully short in that, and even things like they're like a clear player development pathway will be created by the end of 2019, producing a regular supply of quality footballers within the next 5 years. I'm not sure that the people who created this plan back then can stand over that now and say that they've pulled that off. High quality coaches with a strong focus on developing the fundamental skills of the game will be available in all clubs, along with a support network for those club coaches led by the county games development staff. And that was an objective by the end of 2024. Talking to a lot of people in Cork club football over the last while, one of the things that comes out, Dylan, is that there's a real feeling that there is not enough quality coaches in Cork, and that's why Cork went outside to get Kevin Walsh in from to help out with the Cork senior footballers. There's a dearth of quality coaches in the county right now, and that's something that needs to be addressed. So that 5-year plan, it just hasn't met. It hasn't come to fruition, and it's like it needs to be examined now. It really does. Like we're at the end of the 2024 season, intercounty season, and at Cork football, seniors knocked out by Louth, minors hammered by Kerry and then Mayo by over 30-35 points collectively between those two defeats, and the under-20s lost twice to Kerry in the Munster Championship. So Cork football again is at a low ebb, and the people who put that plan together, or even the current county board, I know a lot of those people weren't involved in putting this plan together. Like we need to examine this plan. Why weren't the objectives reached? What were the reasons for that? What was a success? What wasn't a success? Will this 5-year plan just be consigned to the dustbin and be forgotten about, or can Cork football and Cork GA learn from the mistakes in this plan and actually put in a proper, more attainable plan for the next couple of years? Or are we just sick of hearing about 5-year plans? And like we said, there was 5 years far too ambitious. Should this be a 10-year plan? Because where Cork football is now, it's at a low ebb, and it's very frustrating. And it's taken a defeat like this to Louth to bring it all to the forefront again.
Yeah, and interestingly, one of the replies to your tweet when you put up the plan came from the MEP Sean Kelly. You're spot on here, Kieran. Before any talk about next soothing 5-year plan, easiest thing in the world to do, examine what happened to the last one and hold people accountable. Otherwise, same will happen for the next one. So he has a good point there. Like making a plan is all well and good, and maybe a little bit easy, but it's actually making sure you have the processes in place to actually follow up on the plan. Like, support for Cork football and the profile of our intercounty footballers will grow significantly within 1 to 2 years. Grow significantly can mean anything there. Do you know, that just kind of means whatever you decide it to mean after the fact. So it is something that does need to be looked at, but I'm sure we could talk about it all day. We have a great chat with John Hayes waiting, so I think we should just get straight to that now.
So John, where do we start? It's the day after the loss before Cork knocked out of the All-Ireland Championship. We'd say dumped out of the All-Ireland Championship, that defeat away to Louth. What's your first thoughts?
To be honest, I don't think I've ever been quite as annoyed, either as a player or as a supporter, about a Cork performance or a Cork defeat, really. And being straight about it, I think, like, if people aren't fairly angry and fairly annoyed about this one, then they just really don't really care about Cork football, and that's a fundamental thing we need to discuss and address. Is, like, how many people really are concerned about Cork football and worried about Cork football and want Cork football to be successful, because where we're at, and losing that game yesterday, just look, it wasn't acceptable. Like, I think, to be fair, if we're being balanced and honest, I think we've seen progress in certain areas with Cork in the last year or two. I think John has come in, he's developed the squad pretty well. We've developed a game plan, but we're very one-dimensional now at the moment with that game plan. It's like, I think I said at the end of the column last week, that it'll be a different kind of game than against the Division 1 teams, where Tyrone, Donegal, they come at you. They're coming after you, and Cork were happy to sit in and take the breaks and take the turnovers and go after them that way. Similar to maybe down in Kerry as well. And we're good on the break. We've a lot of pace and that kind of thing. And fellas cause trouble and stuff like that. We obviously have problems finishing our chances as well, which came back to haunt us a little bit yesterday. But the biggest issue, like, we've harped on about the kick out thing, which developed a little bit and evolved a bit more beyond the total reliance on the overload kick out to the left wing. We still do it, and we still do it probably a little bit too much. We don't have the same variety to our game that the kick out game that other teams do. But we improved a bit on that, and you could see them improving it and working at it. But our attacking game plan at this stage is almost totally reliant on the turnovers and the fast breaks. When we come up against pack defences, we've seen it now, and it's 2 years out. I was going up to league games in Páirc Uí Chaoimh last year. I would have highlighted it a few times. I would have said it to a lot of people. I think they've written it a few times in the column, that we have a kind of a set piece during the play, where someone in the middle of the pitch, very often it seems to be Rory Maguire, might get the ball in midfield. He'll have a couple of options, maybe either side of him. He'll stop everything up, he'll raise his fist. That's the signal for everyone in front of him to head for either wing, And previously, we totally emptied out the centre of the pitch. Totally emptied out. Nowadays, maybe Chris Og or someone, maybe one, hangs in there in the middle. But they might as well not be there, because we're not giving it to them. We're not. We're just going to run to the wing. We're going to run to the wing. It's going to be moved through the hands, and we're hoping then that the other team defensively slack off and someone can cut through and cut in the wing. But more often than not, we run up the line, it goes through the hands two or three or four times, and one or two things generally happens. They just get shepherded out to the wing, and someone will go backwards, and they'll recycle and try it down the opposite way. Or, as happened in the very last play of the game, which was the most damning indictment of our attacking football, was that we ran into the corner into 3 or 4 bodies and ended up getting bottled up and turned over. It's unbelievably predictable. I don't understand it. Like, pack defences, the defenders want you to go to the sideline. That's where they want you to go. They don't want it. I know it might be riskier to take people on in the centre of the pitch, but if you look at Owen McSweeney's chance, Sean Powder took people on in the middle of the pitch. He sidestepped one, freed himself for a hand pass, and next week he was through and goal. He should have buried it. He didn't, and that cost us again yesterday. But by and large, we just go to the sidelines and run to the wings. And when you're coaching teams, coaching underage teams, or the way any club team, they'll tell you when the opposition are coming in, what you want to do is shepherd them towards the wing and then start putting pressure on them. They don't even have to do that to Cork because we're going straight there anyway. They don't look in towards the goal. I mean, Aaron Kernan was on the commentary on GA Go, and I thought he was very good. He was spot on with his analysis for the most part, but he was highlighting Chris Ogue was 1-on-1 inside. Louth were leaving a 1-on-1 inside, and we refused to get it. There was a line ball in the second half, around the 45. Brian Hurley got penalised for stepping onto the pitch. But again, if you look at the thing, there was space in front of Chris Ogue. I think it was Chris Ogue anyway. There was space in front of him in a 1-on-1 inside. We're only 45 yards out from goal. If Brian Hurley is playing for Castlehaven and that's Michael Hurley who's inside 1-on-1 with any defender, with anyone, he's looking in there and hitting that. He wanted to go sideways across the pitch. He got penalised for stepping out onto the pitch in a hot ball. We lost it. But we just had no desire, interest, or the players don't have the freedom to try and attack the middle of the pitch. We literally just go down the wings and down the sidelines, and the opposition only have to defend one side of the pitch. And once they do that, Cork are toothless, absolutely toothless. So I honestly think the second half yesterday was just as bad as it gets. It was as bad as it gets. And look, I don't take any pleasure in saying these things. I'm not getting involved in this stuff just to cut people down or anything else like that. But I think everyone involved in that yesterday were going to have to put their hand up and say it just wasn't good enough. I've been there myself in terms of games where I played, and it wasn't good enough either by me or the team, or recently a couple of the performances, say the under-20 last year, which I was involved in, wasn't good enough. But yesterday, after going 1-5-4 up against a very, very, very average Louth team, they're very, very average with a kind of similar tactical game plan, which is to sit back and hit the break. And we just have, with that 4-point cushion, to allow them back in and ultimately allow them to beat us in those circumstances. It's just, I thought it was shocking. I thought it was desperate.
It's incredibly disheartening, John, when you consider only go back a couple of weeks ago after Cork beat Donegal, and there was optimism after that because we saw Cork play well against a newly crowned Ulster champions, albeit okay, they had a short break, but still Cork took their chances that day, and there's a feeling come away from Páirc Uí Rinn that day, and Jesus, like Cork have something here if they can build on that. And what we wanted in was to see Cork put like these back-to-back performances together and beat Tyrone. Okay, and that didn't happen the previous weekend. But for Cork to bow out to Louth, and with the greatest respect to Louth, it just feels like such an opportunity lost. And it's going to be what this season is a remember for. Like, this wasn't one of progression; it was one of regression in many cases. Like Cork got further in 2023, got to the quarterfinals, gone from the prelim quarterfinals this year. Cork are still stuck in Division 2 of the National League. So when you're looking at this year as a whole, how would you sum it up? Is it one for Cork have stagnated? Have Cork gone a step backwards, or how would you sum it up, John?
I think stagnation is probably the right assessment, the right phrase. There was positives, there was good performances, and then like I said, I think we've just become we've got one plan, and that's the counter-attacking game, and we don't really have a way of breaking teams down when they sit back and try to do to us what we want to do to the opposition. I think it's having a counter-attacking game plan relies on the other team coming out and attacking you. I mean, when the other team are happy to sit back and let you have possession, then you have to have a bit more about you, and that's where we struggle a lot. And I've heard a few people have said to me that the forwards let us down, or the forwards aren't good enough and this kind of thing, and that we don't have good enough forwards. And I kind of disagree. I think we've got forwards there that most counties, a lot of counties, would be very happy to have. If you're talking about Brian Hurley, like Chris Ogue said, a good season. He's missed chances which let him down, but he's always dangerous. Conor Corbett, Colin Manny. I'd have to ask how Colin Manny lost his place in the 26 between Tullamore and this week. I mean, they can't have even done any real training or anything else like that. I think he was released to play with Mitchelstown to get match practice, but match practice for what? Like, this was the first knockout game. This was the first knockout football, and Colin Manny's kind of like Owen McSweeney. If Colin Manny gets that Owen McSweeney chance, he buries it. Like, I wouldn't doubt that for a second. He buries that chance, even the Chris O one as well. So, and look, the quality of forwards, I think maybe we don't have the real top level guys like someone like Clifford or Conor Callan or those guys. But to be honest, David Clifford could play inside for Cork, inside forward for Cork, the way we play, and he wouldn't be a factor in the game because he just wouldn't get fed the ball that he would get from other teams as well. So yeah, look, I think that's the fundamental here is, okay, we've got one way where we can be tough to play against for the big teams, and we can sit back, and we've got good counter-attacking players, and the rest of them we have good footballers. Like, we do have good footballers. We're Division 2 for a reason, so that's our level. That's where we're at. But I think there's good enough players there to definitely beat Louth and move on to a quarter final. Be honest, like, I mean, after Donegal, as you referenced, there was a lot of positivity, and even the Tyrone game, I thought we played well for quite long periods in that game and showed a little bit more. But yesterday is just, it's a massive step backwards. It's a massive blow to Cork, and as I said, it's something we shouldn't be accepting it. We shouldn't be accepting it.
It's like John Cleary afterwards yesterday. John, he was talking about, I suppose, again, like before, missing chances, that wastefulness in front of goal, and also that lack of consistency. And they're two unwanted characteristics you can attribute to this Cork team, but also Cork teams over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years since Cork stepped out of Division 1. Like, where do you start trying to, I suppose, first, how do you start to solve consistency?
How do you start to solve consistency? I thought we were kind of moving towards that consistency. Okay, like I said, we have one sort of a game plan, but we need more flexibility in terms of that, and what we're going to do. Look, ultimately, we need to coach our attacking football a lot better. And it's easier said than done, I know. But maybe there's a kind of a release the shackles kind of a little bit. I think that they looked so robotic, and this is what you're supposed to do when you get the ball and you run towards the sideline and work it through the hands and hope some gap opens up that someone can cut in and have a shot. But like, there's good enough players there to do better than that. I've no question on that. Consistency, yeah. Look, it's simply building the squad. I think you're looking at the team here in front of me. Like Daniel Manny's had a very good season. Tommy Walsh went off injured. It was a big blow. So they're two very good, solid defenders to build around. Kevin Flaherty and Maurice Shanley, they're both younger lads. They're absolutely there for the next few years as well. Then you're looking at Rory Maguire. Probably didn't have as good a season this year as he did last year, so we need him to come back to that kind of form as well. Chris Kelly, I think, has done quite well in goal despite the mistake yesterday. I know it was a disappointing one for him. He'll be disappointed, but I think he has added something in goal. Then I suppose Ian Maguire, Matty Taylor, they're around the while. Ian, whether Ian's going to have it in him to want to go again after another one of these defeats. We've had some crushing defeats now in the last few years, and Ian's been there for all of them. And to be fair to him, he works his socks off for Cork and everything else like that. But it's hard to keep coming back. So Colm O'Callaghan was very good in the first half yesterday. He was our best player by a long way. But in the second half we struggled everywhere. So up front, then I thought Brian O'Driscoll had a fine season, very good season. I don't know what happened. Paul Walsh, I assume Paul must have picked up an injury because he'd been playing well. Sean Powder didn't make the team. Rory Dean starts. Rory's another one who's probably on the cusp of, is there another year in Rory in doing this? I'm not so sure. So then, inside Mark Ronan didn't back up. He had a good game the week before, but yesterday wasn't good. But Stephen Sherlock and Chris Og, Chris Og was probably the only one who got into it a little bit. A little bit of a mixed outing for him, but he did create chances, and he does do that. But the other lads weren't even in the game and Brian wasn't in the game either, probably not fully fit. But like I said, they're almost redundant inside there anyway because of the style of play we're doing, and that's, I suppose, in terms of consistency, a little bit of working on our style of play to allow us to play a little bit more football. Like I said, someone said that they looked overcoached, and I totally agree. It sounds like they've no autonomy on the pitch. They've no kind of there's no allowance for the individual to take something on and try and make something happen. This is a strategy, and you have to do it, and to do it all the way up to the final whistle. I thought it was shocking, yes. So listen, I do think there's good, even if you're looking at the bench there. Conor Corbett is one for the future. Okay, this year hasn't been the championship hasn't gone great for him, but I do think there's a big talent there. Columnist, as I mentioned, and I kind of blew in the face from talking about him over the last few years. But like, all we've been hoping for is that he gets fit, and now that he was coming back and to lose his place, I don't get it. But yeah, look, the consistency of it is just going to have to come from the hard work of the players and everything else like that. But yeah, it's the development of the attacking side of things. I think when teams sit back against us and when a slower build up, I think and Twitter again, the Gaelic stat man, and he was doing, what did he say about how long Cork were in possession for different phases and how slow we were with it. Like if you look at it here, periods of time where we had over 2, 3, 4 minutes on the ball and created nothing out of those opportunities as well. So yeah, I think we have to develop to be more consistent. We have to develop a better attacking plan for the teams that are going to sit back against us.
There's an awful lot to unpick there, John, as well. And in the argument of the loss to Louth, John Cleary, he was non-committal about his future, and he said he needs a couple of days to think about whether he will be back in again next season or not. It's obviously going to be a tough time for him and his management team because they'll be gutted too. They'll be after what unfolded in his scheme. What do you think is going to happen there? Do you think John's going to decide to come back again next year, or is it just we to wait and see what his decision is?
Yeah, sure. Look, I don't know. Only John, I suppose, can really answer that question. Look, on it, I think I hope John Cleary does come back. Look, they're all going to get criticism for yesterday, and they have to expect that. And as long as it's not excessive or personal, then you were going to deserve a little bit of criticism after a performance and a defeat like that. But I would think John has enough credit in the bank and has done enough, even in the 2 years, but overall in terms of his contribution to Cork football, going back with the under-21s and all that, and as a player and everything else, I think John has enough in the bank to go another year. But being straight about it, I couldn't say the same about Kevin Walsh. Honestly, I think in terms of the coaching of the team, if he's coming down, he's the high-profile coach coming down and charged with cultivating our game plans and working on our kickouts and our defensive side of things. The defensive side of things has been okay, that's fine, but look, getting numbers behind the ball and putting pressure on and making tackles, that's part one, and it's in a way it's sort of the easy part. The hard part then is developing a strategy so that we can cut through teams and create chances and score chances. And I know we miss chances and they'll point to that, but at the same time we weren't making enough. There was a 10-minute spell where we created several chances, a couple of them from loud mistakes, say from the kick out. But when we really needed to, at the end of the game, we had no ideas. So I'd be in favour of John Cleary staying on, but I don't think Kevin Walsh has shown enough to justify his role as a coach for Cork. Straight about, to be honest.
Bigger picture, so John, before I let you go, and you kind of touched it earlier about where Cork football is. If we look at it, if we're saying it's a season of stagnation for the seniors, the minors suffered very heavy defeats against Kerry and Mayo. The under-20s, 2 losses to Kerry in the Munster under-20 football championship. It's not been a good year for Cork football teams. With Brian Cuthbert in the Star last week saying about kind of different thinking, this nuanced approach. Kind of we have to think outside the box to get Cork football moving again. I know it's a kind of, this isn't, there's no easy answer to this, but where do we start to get Cork football moving in the right direction again. What needs to happen? We had that 5-year plan. That was 5 years ago. This is hashtag 2024. Like, and that's like probably not worth the paper it was even written on at this stage. You know, with some of the stuff that was put forward at the time. Like, where does Cork football go from here?
I don't know. I suppose the fellow who can answer that question would be a very successful and possibly a wealthy man if you come up with a solution. Where do we go? Look, I think it all comes back. It all comes back ultimately to the attitude towards football in Cork, and you know, like, where do we stand in the grand scheme of things in terms of the other sports and the other sports? Look, the other sports are just proving a little bit more popular. Gaelic football, you know, we might lag behind a little bit in terms of whether it's soccer, whether it's rugby, hurling, Gaelic football. You're probably looking at the number 4 sport for the most part in Cork. In terms of what we do short term, long term, I think there has been some positives done. Like, I mean, the leagues and the championship that we have now, I think they're much better than that. It used to be ridiculous. I mean, we used to play 3 Killer Shield games in February. We used to play another couple in March, and then you had the first round of championship with maybe a league game in April and maybe a league game in May, June, July. Sometimes fixtures didn't get fulfilled, which is obviously a little bit of a thorny topic here in Ross at the moment as well, given the way the league panned out yesterday. But it's few and far between now the fixtures don't get fulfilled. So I think there has been positive steps in terms of where Cork is at, but it's not just a Cork football thing. It's a Cork GA thing. Like, I mean, I think, okay, the hurling has had some more underage success and still in the championship, but for it to be going on nearly 20 years now at this stage since Cork claimed an All-Ireland in senior hurling, we're turning into we are the most successful GA county throughout the history of the GA, but we're turning into the biggest underachievers in GA at the moment across the board. So, like, you need to get the numbers and everything else, and numbers, playing the game, and player retention. Then moving on, like, I'm helping out with the Ross and the 14 team at home, just helping out, and we've got some lovely footballers. But they're all involved in other sports as well, and you know, losing fellas to other sports from Gaelic football is a big issue in Cork. So you have to kind of incentivize it and make it as, you know, positive and attractive as possible to want to play football and be involved in football in Cork. Because sometimes it can feel like a struggle, you know, just to be a Cork football person, and it can be difficult. But yeah, I think it's very difficult. But everyone can give you different reasons of why you think. Like, the schools thing has been flagged, and I read what Brian said, and I wouldn't disagree with him. So that's one thing, maybe, you know, that we need to develop a few hubs, as Brian said. I think like with Cork as well at underage, you know, with the minors and the under 16s and 17s, I think dragging all it, not having, even if the school is the hub, great, but we need those as well for people in the far west of the county and everything else like that. Another couple of hubs for 15, 16, 17-year-olds, that they can, you know, go and be involved in football and be coached by different people at those different locations. Because I think it's difficult to drag someone from, I mean, we've lost Bear almost completely off the football map, you know, which is, you know, not something any of us want to see. But it is difficult for those guys, for anyone from that range, to be tearing up the Cork, you know, 3-4 times a week or whatever it is. So I don't have any major answers. You look at the schools, you look at the clubs, you look at all of it, and you go again. But fundamentally, it's about getting back to brass taxes, getting involved, getting more people involved, there's loads of people, I'd say, they're involved, you know, in their clubs, and they might be very interested in clubs, and the Cork football, they'll keep an eye on it, but they don't, you know, get massively involved, or not massively behind it. You know, even we went to the Clare game up in Clare this year, and you see people walking around with the Clare Football Supporters Club jackets, you know, and I think they're heavily involved, and you know, do things to support the team and support things like that. So every little bit like that can help. But I don't know. Maybe I remember reading that plan that you referenced to the 2024 plan at the time, and there's some good stuff in there. And we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, I guess. And you have to hope that maybe the fact that we have a better structure now and everything else like that in terms of the leagues and championships will pay off in the long run. But fundamentally, we just have to make sure we attract as many people to play Gaelic football as we can, and we try and keep them then beyond it. Because as I said, a lot of these guys are playing Gaelic football up to a point and then choosing other sports. So that's a difficulty that we have. So yeah, and look, it's about the positivity of the game and everything else like that as well. So hopefully, even with the review committee, because just the way football has gone, even the game yesterday, if you watch like the game, if you weren't a Cork or a Louth fan watching that, it would have been almost a form of torture. And like I said, I'm helping out with the under-14s, and I'm involved in a lot of football, and I see some great games of football. Even like I said, I came down the road yesterday, and after the Cork game was over to Lep for the junior Ross juniors against Lep, and it was a fine game of football, good game of football. Like it finished up 2-10 to 2-9. It was good and enjoyable to watch. But a lot of the time, if I'm telling the under-14s, you might tell them to watch a game in terms of what they can learn out of it, but you wouldn't be telling these lads to go watch the football because they're going to enjoy it, because a lot of it just isn't enjoyable to watch or anything else like that at the moment. So yeah, I think there's big issues there. I think there's big issues, and there's no quick fix. There's no quick fix as I see it. The schools one is one that I think we should be doing, and I think we should have in the GA, Cork should have 3 or 4 mini hubs around the county that players will come and go to and gather. Like trying to organise Cork up to under 17 is no easy task with the numbers and everything else like that, but we should be targeting having as many players involved at that level as possible. And I would include dual players. Some people reference the dual players and say that's a problem, we shouldn't bring them through, and that they don't tolerate dual players at certain levels anymore. But I think that's ruling out too many players. The minor team I played on would have struggled without our dual players, and a number of them went on to play football for Cork as well. So like I said, there's no one easy answer, but it's all about doing the hard work and getting involved. But yeah, so something like the schools and kind of more, as I said, kind of taking some of the stuff away from Cork City, so it's not all Cork City based that you have to travel up there all the time. If you are based west or north or anything else like that, So like I said, if anyone had the answer, they'd have thrown it out by now and we'd know it. There is no easy answer. It's all about hard work and sticking at it. And look, like I said, there was some positives to some of the performance this season, but yeah, it feels like a long road back now to next year and where Cork will be at. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, I think.
No bother, Johnny. Tough conversation to have, so appreciate your time.
The Star Sport podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Welcome back to the Star Sport podcast. And Kieran, in some more positive news for West Cork sport, there are 5 West Cork athletes and counting selected on Team Ireland for the Olympic Games in Paris. We'll talk about them in just a moment. But first, the Star Sport coverage of the Olympics this summer is going to be sponsored by Cork County Council, who have come on board to help us deliver some great written pieces, some video content, some audio content as well for West Cork sport fans, for Irish sport fans going into this summer. And we're delighted to have them on board. And I think it's fair to say we're excited to start covering the Olympics this summer.
100%, and it's superb to get the Cork County Council on board and in partnership with our Olympic coverage, because you have 2 incredibly strong brands and institutions in Cork, the Southern Star and the Cork County Council, almost coming together to ensure that we can give our readers, our listeners, our viewers the best possible Olympic coverage for the weeks ahead, because it's shaping up for one hell of a summer, Dylan. In the last few days, 4 skipperine rowers were officially selected on the Team Ireland team that's heading to Paris. That's Paula Donovan and Fintan McCarthy as the defending men's lightweight rowing champions. Emily Hegarty, Tokyo 2021 medalist, is back in the Irish women's 4, and Aoife Casey is in the Irish women's lightweight double. And on top of that, we've ring rowing man David Harte, who is hockey royalty. He was the Irish men's hockey captain at the Rio Games back in 2016. He's been selected as the goalkeeper for the Irish men's hockey squad that's traveling to Paris. So it's 5 and counting, and touch wood that we will have 1 or 2 more over the next couple of days. The Irish Athletics Championships are on this weekend. It's the cutoff point for the athletics Olympic qualification. We know that Phil Healy will go there to Paris in the women's 4x400 meter relay team. She's trying to get there in the individual 2 as well. She's just outside the quota at the moment, so hopefully a good run, a good result at the nationals could bump her in there. We'll just have to wait and see on that. And the other one, another exciting one, is Nicola Tuttle. She's way ahead of schedule. Like, this is just a brilliant story, Dylan. So if everything goes well for Nicola and this weekend at the senior nationals, she's defending her Irish senior women's hammer title. She could make the quota and be going to Paris, which would be an absolutely incredible story. So let's wait and see. But it's 5 and counting.
Yeah, 5 and counting is incredible. Could be up to 7 as well. And that coverage starts in this week's Southern Star. On page 11, you can read a great interview with Paul O'Donovan and some news about David Harte there as well. So that is something for everyone to check out. And Kieran, it might be a good time just to quickly kind of, I guess, reiterate something that we talk about all the time. But the fact that a small region, West Cork, has 5 confirmed athletes, potentially up to 7 in the Summer Olympics this year is incredible for the region.
It really is. Like, and we say it so much in this podcast, Dylan, that West Cork, it's like it's been a golden era for sport for, you could say, no, for 10 years. Like, that's not an era. Like, that's almost a generation. It's a golden generation of West Cork sports stars, and to have 5 confirmed athletes, and hopefully it will be 6, maybe even 7. I think that's incredible, and it's across the different sports as well, like from rowing to hockey to athletics, and within athletics you could have the hammer and sprinting. So that just shows the variety of the sports here in West Cork. And people think of West Cork and it's a GA stronghold, and of course it is. GA is king. But if you listen to John Hayes and his chat earlier, he made the point that even rugby and soccer, like, he feels that Gaelic football has become almost 4th choice for people in the county. So it's just it's very interesting to see that shift in the sport and dynamic over the last number of years. But long may it continue that there's a huge choice of sports for all these kids growing up. You know, kind of I think back to Fintan McCarthy. He'll admit he was never a good footballer. You know, like, he didn't want to play football, and he found his sport and passion in rowing. And look where that has taken him. He's an Olympic champion, you know. And I think that's the beauty of West Cork sport, is that there is a sport here for everyone, and there's sport at a high level too. Whether it's athletics, you're looking at Phil Healy or Darren McElhinney performing on the world stage, or if you want to go to rowing, or if it's kickboxing, you've seen a Lily Delacour or a Tony Stevenson, or a soccer with a Conor Horan, rugby with the Jack Crowleys and the Gavin Coombs and the Darren Sweetnams and the Inya Breens and the Laura Sheehans. It's just incredible in West Cork at the moment that we've so many sports people. And the next couple of weeks we'll have a lot of Olympic coverage, and the plan is, with the Cork County Council on board, like, we're going to really ramp up our coverage over the next couple of weeks. So just keep an eye out for obviously the Star every Thursday, but keep an eye out online as well for videos on online content. And I'm starting work on this big 24-page minimum special that's going to come out the week of the Olympics, and that's going to be a must-read, must-have souvenir keepsake for everyone in West Cork. So put on your seatbelt. It's time to get ready for a hell of an Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that as well. West Cork, there's a sport here for everyone. There's a tagline there for somebody somewhere. But very quickly, Kieran, before we finish up, speaking of a sport here for everyone, you probably managed to fit most of them into the pages of the sports section every single Thursday. And what can readers look forward to this week?
So yeah, so for those who want to continue the misery, we have our reaction to the Cork footballers' loss to Louth, but in more, I suppose, to kind of keep it more upbeat, the Cork hurlers are through to the All-Ireland semi-final against Limerick. So we've Pat Ryan's reaction to the win against Dublin last weekend. The Cork Camogie team hammered Dublin last weekend, and they're playing Galway this weekend. So we talked to Germany, the Cork Camogie manager, about the importance of beating Galway. Also, we have Cork ladies football manager Shane Ronane's reaction to the All-Ireland quarter-final draw, where Cork will play Waterford on Saturday, July 6th at home in SuperValue Park, Equive. More good news, the Goleen junior footballers are back in the County Junior B football final. This will be their 5th County Junior B football final since 2019. They've lost the previous 4, Dylan, so hope that they'll get the job done the weekend after next. They're taking on Ballyfinane, who beat Clonagale last weekend, and we've reports of reaction from both those semi-finals. John McCarthy has a lovely piece on West Cork's recent Kennedy Cup exploits and how expectation and belief has grown within the West Cork Academy that West Cork can win a competition like the Kennedy Cup. So that's well worth checking out. We've also today this motorsport, roadboarding, we've kickboxing, we've rugby in there, we've masters, soccer, you name it, it's in there. So there's, again, like I said earlier, there's something for everyone.
Absolutely. All that will be available in shops across West Cork from Thursday morning. And as always, if you're further afield or can't make it to the shops, you can subscribe to the Southern Star and get it on your laptop, tablet, or phone. Just head to subscribe.southernstar.ie, enter your details, and you'll get an exact replica of the newspaper for less than €2 per week. And also, Kieran, in this edition of the Southern Star this week, we have the 10 finalists in West Cork's Cutest Pet competition. So we had over 420 entries into this year's competition. It was a very tough job for Star editor Siobhan Cronin and our judges Joan Heady and Jennifer Quinlivan to make their way through, but they've chosen 10 and it'll go to a public vote now. So to see those 10 finalists, you need to pick up this week's Southern Star as well.
And
as
for
always,
any sports friends, just to check that out, because there's a great name of one of the top 10 finalists, Virgil Van Rabbit. What a brilliant name for a pet. So well worth checking out.
Yeah, that's a personal favorite, I must say, as well, as a Liverpool fan. So I'm gunning for Virgil Van Rabbit in the vote. As always, thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks again to our sponsors at Access Credit Union. If you've enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back again next week. Thanks for listening.